the Retro Network Podcast.
Kind of like Home Alone mixed with The Hangover.
Pause, timeout. All right, I'm doing the Zach Morris thing.
Yes.
The flagship show for the Retro Network Podcast channel.
We've got some fun stuff in this episode.
Man, that's like listening to classic Guns N' Roses.
Even G.I. Joe fans are like, WTF.
Get ready for the latest pop culture news.
We've got plenty of Recurrent Events headlines to get to.
Man, can you imagine getting a service that streamed all these old Nickelodeon shows?
Interviews.
Let me just start out by asking you, what was your Batman experience when it first came out?
Yeah, summer of '89, I was very excited. I was a comic book reader.
And topical discussions on all that stuff we grew up with and just can't leave in the past.
There's just so many great memories that I have as a kid, just begging mom to go to the department store.
We were the target audience for Sears catalogs. I remember getting them and mom sitting down at the kitchen table and getting on the telephone and making her orders.
How have you not watched The Matrix?
When I went to the movies, I was trying to go watch a sensitive movie, the ones where you could put your arm around your date.
And now, here are your hosts for the Retro Network Podcast, Jason.
I like to have pictures with my words.
And Mickey.
I ain't farting on no snare drum.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It is September. It's good to be Halloween season, Mick.
Mm-hmm. It's almost fall. It smells like fall here. It's starting to look like fall here. It's not quite feeling like fall yet, but we're waiting on it to cool down just a little.
Yeah, I needed to cool down. It was 105 yesterday here, so that's nowhere near fall.
Okay, well, it was. It only hit 80 here yesterday. So.
No, it was horrible. But at least the stores are starting to get all their Halloween stuff out there, and oh man, this is a great time of year.
Oh, it is. And you got time for a quick story?
Yeah, man.
We were texting yesterday. I had some stuff to do outside, and I was wanting to sit down and watch college football. So I done all that. Went to the store with my oldest and got a few things. One of the things I picked up was some hard apple cider. Since it's almost fall, I was craving the taste of that. I took a shower, had some burgers to grill, and I started drinking the hard apple cider and grilling burgers. And we ate, and I had, 3, 4, 5 bottles of the apple cider, and everybody had to leave. I laid down to watch college football about 4 o'clock-ish. Well, I fell asleep, and I woke up about 5:30. Have you ever had an afternoon after nap hangover? I felt like crap for like 2 hours after that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
no, man.
I don't know why.
Every time I fall asleep during college football, I do this too at night when we're watching a show, and we'll be watching, I don't know, like Law and Order or something, and I'll fall asleep like for the last 15 minutes of the show. I'll wake up and be like, "Oh, that was good," and then I'll try to ask my wife what happened, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you missed it. You don't know who did it,
Well, my wife tries to pretend she never fell asleep, and so I'll catch her in it because I'll know she's sleeping. That's what we do on Sunday nights. It's my only time I take everything off, and her and I sit on the couch and relax and catch up on shows. And she'll sleep through the last half of a show or something at some point, and she'll wake up and be like, "Did you take a good nap?" No, I never did fall asleep. So, as an example, something like Magnum PI, the new series. This was one of the examples from last season. She had fallen asleep in the middle of a tense episode, and I waited a couple hours after we were done, and we were cleaning up, getting ready to go to bed, and I was just shaking my head. She said, "What's wrong?" I said, I can't believe in the first season they killed off TC. And she's like, "Wait, what?" I said, "I knew you fell asleep."
Nice.
But you can't do it right after they wake up because they'll know you're joking.
Right,
you have to catch them a little while later.
That's great, man. They killed TC. Oh, man. That was a great one. Well, thanks, everybody, for joining us. Yes, this is the TRN Podcast. Jason and Mickey with you. And, speaking of Halloween, have you tried the new Mountain Dew or Mountain Voodew they have out?
I tried it. I don't know. The kids had brought some in at some point, and one of them had a can, and I tried it.
So what do you think?
It's not as a one-off can. Sure, it's pretty good. It's not a flavor I would want to drink all the time, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
But the big question is, it's a mystery flavor.
Right.
Do you know what the flavor is? Have you pinpointed it yet?
I don't know. I see a lot of people saying Skittles. I kind of got that, but it was more, I guess, towards the candy corn side, or you remember, the like candy corn pumpkins. Mm-hmm. That's what I was kind of thinking. It was more of like an orangish flavor to me. I don't know.
Well, I tell you what I picked up, and several people I've mentioned to have been like, that's it. I was trying to me, it tastes exactly like the cream soda flavor of Dum Dum Suckers that they have in all the bags of Dum Dums.
That could be it. Yeah, I do like that flavor. That's a good choice. And it's got that, milky color too, which would kind of match that. So interesting. I'll have to try another can. I was debating whether to pick up one at the store or not yesterday, and I passed on it. But I think I'm going to have to try it again just to see if I can pinpoint that flavor a little more.
Well, the kids had a 12-pack of it, and they were splitting it evenly, but I kind of ruined those plans because I took one unopened can and put it in the retro museum. And they want to know what I was doing. I'm like, hey, 15 years from now, this is going to be retro,
Absolutely.
This is the only way you get stuff like this is by saving it. And they're like, well, we each had 6 cans. What are we going to do? I said, well, do you want me to put a second can in there, or do you all just want to share one can?
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing with like New Coke, because I kept a can unopened in there, and then you get another one with each pack, which I still haven't opened up my free pack yet that they sent me. But I might just put that whole thing in my wife's china cabinet. That's where I keep all my glass collectibles. But I let we had a game night. Me and a bunch of my friends, we get together about every month or so for like a game night, and I took one can over there and let them all try it, split it up, and they're like, ugh. Most of them are, I don't know, probably 6 to 10 years younger than me, so they don't remember it the first time around, which I really didn't remember it much myself, but they're like, nah, I will pass on the New Coke.
So you're the old man in that group, huh?
I am, yeah. I'm the old curmudgeon in my.
Well, you don't have to be a curmudgeon. You're in a good place with that type of group because you're the one who can show them the older ways or sometimes the better ways. You lead the charge.
Yeah, so we do board games, but we also do like we'll get out the old video game systems every once in a while, and they're more like going for like GoldenEye on, what was it, N64, I think.
I guess.
Or Super Nintendo, and I'm like, no, we got to play like Contra or Rampage or whatever on the original Nintendo, and we'll go back and forth. Usually we'll have a bunch of systems hooked up. I'll bring my Genesis over too, and we'll just kind of do round robin for games and stuff. So it's fun, man, if you can get a group like that together.
It sounds like it.
So, yeah, we had a great week, man. We got you on the Situation Jukebox. That was a real fun. Just going back through and producing the show, I've laughed so many times, man. And it was late that night. It was like the night before it dropped, and I was tired. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get through all this. And once I hit play and started editing out stuff, I started laughing, and it just kept me awake to finish it out. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was a really fun time, and as much as I looked forward to being on my first one, now I'm even more excited to be on my second one. So,
yeah, you just keep wanting to come back and steal the belt away from Kevin or Stacy, who's had it the whole time that we've been playing this.
Well, also, I'm ready to dip my toes in the retro trivia world, or better than that, the retro Jeopardy world at some point when you put another one of those together.
Yeah, we've got to get that back going again, and we've thrown some ideas out there on Slack back and forth of what to do. I had the idea of doing like a situation, like movie show, where you throw the situation out and you then talk about or come up with the perfect movie that would go with that situation. Since every time I play that game, I'm thinking about movies anyway. Like I was thinking about Top Gun, and I was thinking about Back to the Future, and I was like, oh, we just turned this into a movie show too. So I don't know. Maybe we'll try something like that down the road.
Yeah, that might be all right. Or, here's just another idea right off the top of my head we haven't discussed. If we start running low on situations, maybe you take situations from movies to do the situation jukebox with, as in, like Iron Eagle, Chappie's crashed and you've got to complete the mission. What song do you want playing while you're, you could tie them, all that in together somehow.
True. Yeah. Yeah. As long as there's not a song playing during that situation that, you immediately connect with.
Well, let's say
if be a little bit more vague, but
right. If there is a song playing, it's automatically disqualified. Like if you're the Goonies running from the Fratellis, you can't have Goonies Are Good Enough playing. What would you put in its place?
There you go. That's good. I like that. Like soundtrack situations or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Okay. We're spinning some ideas around. It's fun. I like game night. So, okay. Well, just a couple announcements before we get going here. We've got that essay contest, man, in September. Bring on your essays. And we got that goodie box we put together for the winner, and whoever gets chosen, we're going to invite on as a regular author and member of the staff if you have the time to put in. And the rules, I've got those pinned on Facebook and Twitter, and there's that banner right on the website. You can go over there and click on, get the rules, and see how to submit. It's pretty easy. Yeah,
and I've talked to a lot of folks so far who are working on stuff as we speak, so it's not going to be too late. We're taking entries all the way up through the 30th. We probably won't finish getting everything posted until into October a little bit because several people wait till the 29th or 30th to submit theirs. I can't get it all posted. You don't want to, well, I don't want to dump a bunch of stuff on the site at one time because you want each article to have its own time to shine and to have the spotlight for a day or so. So, we'll be posting, the entry deadline is the last day of September, but you'll still be seeing the entries pop up on the site through the first part of October, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would probably be me if I was entering the contest. I'm going to wait until the last minute. I'm such a procrastinator, man.
Well, either that or you're taking a long time crafting the perfect essay, which is what I hope people are doing.
Well, I guess we're stuck with posting whatever you're going to submit to us, though. So
we'll take whatever it is.
All right. And then, we still got our Patreon going. We had some fun this week. Just talking from the last episode where we were talking about our school stories and stuff. I found a picture in my yearbook with that wonderful outfit that I was telling you got doused with punch.
Yes, that was an epic picture, by the way. I'm still waiting to see the color version of it.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I've got one that's in color somewhere. I just got to find it. But yeah, just to find that in the yearbook, I was like, oh yeah, this was the before picture. I don't have an after, which would have been crazy. But anyway, I posted that one up for our Patreon supporters, and you found a Cabbage Patch Kid birth certificate, right?
Yeah, after we joked last week on the show about occupying my wife with a Cabbage Patch Kid, I was like, I don't think she was ever into that. We were going through one of her old high school yearbooks that night, and out of the middle fell a folded up Cabbage Patch Kid adoption form from 1985 that she had filled out and had her young 4-year-old cousin witness and sign his name to it. So it was perfect timing and a perfect coincidence. And it's still so cool though. It's a great piece of retro archaeology find that we had that night. So I scanned it in, put it up on Patreon, and I've still got I haven't forgot what I promised last week. I dug out my old yearbooks this week, and I want to scan some pictures in from them and put it on Patreon too.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny how you'll be talking about something random or something you haven't really thought about in years, and you just run across something like that. I can't tell you how many times somebody would mention to me like GoBot Rock Lords, and I'm tripping over one in the hallway for some reason. I'm just how that happens. I don't know, man. It's crazy. And yeah, as far as our Patreon goes for September, I got an idea for a giveaway that we'll do at the end of the month once everybody's paid in. Since I'm going to RetroCon next week, I think I'm just going to wander through RetroCon and just buy random stuff and dump in a box and send it to you. How about that? Like a mystery RetroCon box for September, and I'll fill it with, whatever action figures and whatever puffy stickers and anything else I can find at RetroCon.
Be honest with the people listening, though. The coolest puffy stickers you find are going on your Trapper Keeper. They're going to be getting the second picks of the puffy stickers, aren't they?
Well, I don't know, because see, I've just going through my stickers. I stuck some Mr. T puffy stickers on this week. I still have some that are just the A-Team puffy stickers to put on there. So I've got some Batman too. I might not have room, man. I might have to get a couple little inserts on the inside and start filling up some more sticker inserts for the Trapper Keeper. I'm running out of room already.
Okay, I'm going to keep my eye open, though. I'm going to be a little suspicious if after RetroCon, your Trapper Keeper has He-Man and Hot Wheels and Transformer stickers on it, and the winner of this is getting Strawberry Shortcake and Gumby stickers. I'm going to be a little skeptical.
I didn't even know the Snorks made puffy stickers. What's going on?
If you found a Snork sticker, send that one to me.
Oh, okay. I've got my radar on then. We'll see if I can find some Snork puffy stickers for Mickey at RetroCon. Okay. Well, yeah, it'll be fun, man. I promise you it's going to be a blast just to open and get a bunch of good stuff, because there's just so much stuff at RetroCon, and I'm just going to be, whatever I think is cool, I'm going to buy, and whatever spoils are left over, you'll get. But anyway, so yeah, be supporting us over there on Patreon, and we really appreciate everybody doing that for us and help us to build the Retro Network like we want to. So this episode coming up, we've kind of renamed. We were into names, man. We like naming something a little catchy. So we're going to rename our main discussion, thanks to Mick, the TRN Time Machine.
Yes.
And this week we're going to be talking about G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, essentially the cartoon, and our memories surrounding that, characters, episodes, that sort of thing. That's going to be in our TRN Time Machine this week, sponsored by Retro Days. And then for our clips of the week, oh man, I've hooked up with this. I'm just going to call him a rapper, I guess. He does this kind of freestyle rapping. I call him the Eminem of retro. His name is the Wordburglar, and he just released a new album this week called Spaceverse. It's got some great tracks on there, from tributes to Transformers and Star Wars and Star Trek and a lot of the space pop culture. I'm going to play one of those for you, and then before we get into our main topic, I'm going to play one from his previous album, which is a pure dedication to G.I. Joe. It's called Welcome to Cobra Island. Oh, there's just some fun songs, man, and you get he samples those little themes in the background when you're watching G.I. Joe and Transformers. Oh, it's so good. So good. So I'm going to put a link to his new album in our show notes and let you guys listen to some tracks of his this week.
Now, I've not listened to him yet, so maybe I'm guessing you named him the Eminem of retro based on his style. But after last week's game night, is it possible we could call him the Young MC of retro?
Of retro. No, he's released, I think he's up to 7 albums now. So I don't know how many Young MC released. He's definitely not a Young MC.
Well, Young MC, when you hit it out of the park with one, there's really no need for more. It's a apples and oranges thing.
Yeah, I'm sure they love those one-hit wonder labels. But anyway, that's coming up between segments this week, and we're going to get right to our recurrent events. All right, leading off this week, this kind of just opened my eyes for a minute at least. Sony is bringing back the Walkman for its 40th anniversary, sort of. The Nerdist was reporting that this new Walkman is a high-resolution touchscreen music player that can stream over Wi-Fi using an app. So it's not the traditional Walkman in a sense. It's more like like a glorified iPod, essentially, which not many people are using nowadays since we got our smartphones. But there's going to be a special logo on the back commemorating, I guess, the 40th, and a case that actually looks like the original TPS L2 Walkman. It's also going to include a digital amplifier, a vinyl processor. I guess that means you can dub over your vinyl records onto it, and a 26-hour battery life. I was like, wow. They're going to release these first in Europe this November. The price tag right now, $900. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, for like you said, for an iPod that looks like a Walkman, but it's not really a Walkman.
Right. The story even said that they're looking into obviously releasing some in the U.S. and probably at a lower price. But I don't know, man. It would be fun just to have it and to, be walking down the street with something that looks like a Walkman and you're still able to get all of your music, digitally. But it kind of defeats the purpose of like an anniversary edition of something,
Yeah, this is pretty cool to look at from a distance, as far as the story goes, but it's not something that I'd be investing money in. Because like you said, everybody carries around a smartphone and it'll hold, with the cloud, as many songs as you want. And maybe they should spend their money releasing iPhone phone cases that look like Walkman.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to work on that right now over on Redbubble. So everybody's, I'm going to do like a Walkman case for your phone. And then you can go buy one for like $20 over there.
Yeah.
So just keep using your phone.
Yeah, and make that Trapper Keeper one you was talking about too.
Yep.
Make a phone case that looks like a Trapper Keeper.
I'm on it. Let me get my Trapper Keeper and make a note here for a minute.
I heard it.
All right, moving along. We had a trailer drop this week. I wanted your reaction on, Mick, for Bad Boys for Life. This one, I forgot they were doing this movie, actually, until this trailer dropped this week, and I got to watch it. What did you think? Were you a fan of the original Bad Boys?
Well, first, I think Martin Lawrence forgot they were filming it, too, because dude got fat. He figured like he'd be trying to get all swole for this, but he's got the flabby cheeks, and
he does, man.
He got more chins than a Chinese phone book. But what did I think about it? I'm not sure what to think about it, because here's another one. I've never watched either one of the first two.
Oh man. Okay.
But I've liked 90% of what Will Smith has done. I've liked 90% of what Martin Lawrence has done. So I'd say that's a series I need to watch the first two of right after I watch The Matrix here at some point the next decade.
The first one was good. I remember that being I wonder when that came out. I think that was like early 90s, maybe mid 90s.
Early 90s, I believe.
It seems like a rental for me. I remember renting that a couple times, and it was pretty good. I don't remember, they did a Bad Boys 2, right? I don't remember anything about that one.
Either the very late 90s or the early 2000s, because as I sit here, I see it sitting on our DVD shelf. And of course, the wife's a big fan of the first two movies, and I remember trying to watch it and just losing the interest and going on and doing something else.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched the second one either, but I remember the first one. The new trailer, it looked fun. It looked like you said, poor Martin Lawrence, man, he's just been living it up forever, and doesn't seem to he's been doing much lately. But it had some real kind of funny lines, and the whole scene where they're driving through a mall, I'm like, yes. let's do the Blues Brothers all over again. I'm all about that. Let's tear up some malls.
Yeah, now that was pretty cool, and he's holding the cop badge out while they're driving through the mall. But Martin Lawrence, you'd think, would be all slimmed down because, well, actually, now to think about it, I think they finished filming it last year. But him and Eddie Murphy in the Netflix exclusive Dolomite movie that hits this winter, he's done it. Now he's done this. I'd imagine he's probably got a role in Coming to America too, would be my guess. But oh boy, I'm happy for him though. He's sitting at home getting fat. He's got paid his whole career. He's retiring and enjoying himself. I'm happy for him. He needs to take it easy and eat something.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That was pretty, like the opening sequence was great. I was like, when he opens up the Porsche door and Smith gets out and then he bangs it against the hydrant. I thought that was a pretty good routine.
Well, number one, what's a cop doing parking in front of a hydrant?
Right.
We got bigger problems than the buffing out of the scar.
I was thinking too, you remember that movie, I don't know if you watched this one or not, Martin Lawrence, Blue Streak, where he, that was one that it's probably my favorite of his movies, that he's just the lead. and trying to get that diamond out of the police station there. That was a great movie back in the day.
Yeah, I liked it. I think my favorite Martin Lawrence movie is Nothing to Lose with him and Tim Robbins. That is hilarious.
I think I've seen that one.
That's one you need to track down and watch. It's very funny. Tim Robbins does a fantastic job in that comedy role. As a straight man to Martin Lawrence's. Yeah. Check that one out at some point.
All right. Moving along, in movies, a sequel to the Tomb Raider reboot has been announced for 2021. MGM has hired Ben Wheatley to direct the sequel, according to Deadline, and Alicia Vikander will reportedly reprise her role in this new installment. The 2018 Tomb Raider earned $275 million on a budget of $106, which surprised the heck out of me, because I'm like, wow, we're still making Tomb Raider movies? I don't know. It seems like that ship has sailed to me.
Yeah, I don't even know if it ever left the port as far as I was concerned. So
yeah, I can't say that I've ever sat through a whole Tomb Raider movie.
Oh,
the
Lord,
ones with Angelina Jolie, but
have
you watched those? Yeah.
Oh well, the first one I had to sit through at the movie theater. I paid for it and everything. It's crazy. But my wife's a big fan, so yeah, I sat through the first one. So
that was. Did she do 2 or 3?
I know she did 2. I have no idea how many she ended up doing. It was
just 2. But yeah, I had no interest in the reboot or really any of this. So it was just surprising to me that they're still making Tomb Raider movies. And I never really played the video game, so I don't know if they've even made updated versions of that within the last few years. Have they been making sequels to Tomb Raider games? I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
All right. Well, we'll just leave that one right there, and we'll have our listeners tell us all about their Tomb Raider fandom, or if they have a fandom. These guys are crazy for keeping on making it.
Somebody does, because it's still a popular franchise with some folks.
I guess so. Maybe it's those people, all the people in China or something, where that $275 million came from. Who knows? All right, well, moving along. In toys, I thought this was fun. Funko releasing 3 more pop vinyls based on corporate mascots. So far, they've made like the Kool-Aid Man. I can't remember who all they've made so far. The ones that they're releasing this November, you're going to get the Coca-Cola Polar Bear. You're going to get the Energizer Bunny. And then in December, you're going to get Chester Cheetah. So I thought this was fun that they're making the mascot. So my question to you is, who else should they be adding to the mascot list?
The little elf from Hills.
The little elf from Hills.
Or does it have to be an existing franchise mascot?
There's an article for the Retro Network. Defunct department store mascots that should be Funko Pops.
Yeah, well, not just department stores, but I don't know. I'm out of the loop on Funko. Do they have versions of Boo Berry, Frankenberry, and Count Chocula?
That's what immediately came to my mind. I don't think they've done those yet.
Well, that would be good.
I could be wrong, though. One that came to mind just from watching the Retro Days channel this week was the Noid. They should definitely make a Noid. And I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to think of some other ones. Maybe they should do like a Spuds McKenzie one.
Oh, absolutely.
On a surfboard.
Yeah. And Alex from Stroh's. Let's get a Budweiser Clydesdale.
There we go. Awesome. Yeah. This could be the whole like.
They got a whole line they could do based on McDonald's characters with Grimace and Mayor McCheese and the Hamburglar.
There you go. Yeah.
They need to get busy. The Honeybee from Cheerios. Man, there's a lot they're lacking.
Sugar Bear. Yeah.
Yeah. Sugar Bear. The Frog from the Smacks cereal, whatever his name is.
Honey Smacks.
In my mind, cereal mascots are always the most prevalent because they seem to be used the most in the marketing to kids. So
right.
Yeah, those are the ones my mind always drifts to. Maybe King Vitamin. We could get a King Vitamin action figure.
King Vitamin. Oh my gosh. All right, Funko. Are you listening? Probably not. All right. Moving along to music. It's been 20 years since Metallica released S&M, and they are celebrating with S&M 2. I had no idea this was going on. The first show was just this past Friday night, and there's actually a second show going on tonight as we record in San Francisco. If you missed it, they will be screening the concert film on October 7th in theaters. So this is just basically a revisit. From what I read, I think it was over there on Ultimate Classic Rock. They're adding new songs to the set that we would have listened to 20 years ago on that album. So that got me interested again because, man, that was just such a fun record. And I like a little bit of strings. I don't know. It makes it a little more epic when you mix strings with rock, especially, or even metal. And that whole album was great.
Yeah, the Kiss done the same thing not long after that, and it was really good too. But all those that I've heard have been really good.
So be looking for that October the 7th. If you're a Metallica fan, you can see if your local theater is going to be screening that show. I'm guessing they'll probably release it to an album as well. So,
and if you're like me and you skip theaters, wait till about January. It'll probably be on Amazon.
There you go. Moving over to TV, there has been a very Brady renovation. I don't know if you've seen this, Mick, but it's actually the 50th anniversary of the Brady Bunch this year. And HGTV actually purchased the home used for the exterior shots for the television show back in 2018. They paid $3.5 million for this house. It's out in California. That's probably why. But they enlisted the now grown-up Brady kids to be a part of the renovation project. And they brought in their, the hosts from the shows to help each of the Bradys. And they're basically modeling the interior of the house now to the set, what the set looked like. So the house will be from outside to inside exactly like the Brady house was. That series on HGTV will premiere September 9th, which is tomorrow, or while we're recording this. If you're listening now, you can go watch it.
Well, I have no plans to watch it, but I do hold a soft spot in my heart for the interior of the Brady's home. It was always a classic look on television. So much so that on my daughter's YouTube food review channel, when we were using a green screen, I used the Brady kitchen as our background for several videos.
Nice. I don't remember either seeing that or catching on that it was the Brady kitchen, but
I'll send you the link later so you can
you'll have
watch
to.
it.
That was fun, man. Making a set into an actual house. I'm sure there's some other shows that we'd love to see too, like the Munsters house or something, but most of those are filmed on the back lot, so you don't get a chance to like have an actual house somewhere that it's sitting to make up like the show or the movie that they used it in. But anyway, one more for us in the recurrent events, and this is fun. Everybody's getting ready for this new Mr. Rogers movie with Tom Hanks, and now they're putting out a visual history of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in book form, obviously. It's going to hit shelves on October 29th. You're going to get never-before-seen photographs, a guide to all the characters and puppets and episodes, and you're going to get some original interviews from some people, the cast and crew. Yo-Yo Ma was on one of the shows, I believe. He's going to have an interview in there. And then you're going to get a sneak peek at the upcoming film, and you're going to get the foreword of the book is by Tom Hanks. So 330-page book, and you can pre-order now on Amazon, I believe, for $30. So Mr. Rogers fans, this is going to be a fun little piece of like a coffee table book or something you can keep there and show off to your friends when they're over and, think about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah, and to make it easy for the listeners to find this particular book, I've added it to the products we endorse section over at theretronetwork.com. Get the exact book we're talking about and help the Retro Network along the way.
Yeah, I was a big Mr. Rogers fan back in the day. Did you watch a lot of Mr. Rogers?
No, I couldn't stand it.
Really? You hater. Freaking Mr. Rogers hater.
You got to think, when I had the opportunity to watch it, I was already like 9, 10 years old. And I just wasn't the target audience at that point for it. I just thought it was, you're at that age, you're too cool for school, too cool for a lot of things. I was too cool for the puppet shows and
Yeah, I don't know.
It just hit me at the wrong time.
I don't know how old I was when I watched it, but it was always like
you told me
Sesame
you
Street.
were 19.
No, I wasn't watching Mr. Rogers in high school. I'm sorry. That was more like American Gladiators. That's another podcast. But anyway, yeah, I love Mr. Rogers, man. And even my daughter got into the animated series, the Daniel Tiger, so with her getting into that for a while and has most of the characters and stuff from the show, I thought that was really fun way to keep the legacy going. But yeah, to each his own.
Yeah. I just wasn't. If I had found it when I was 5, 6 years old, I'd have probably loved it. I just found it at the point in time where I was thinking I was too cool for stuff like that.
I got you.
So I never got into it.
All right. Well, coming up in our neighborhood, we're going to be talking some G.I. Joe. I know that hit you at the right time.
Yes, it sure did.
In the time machine, we're going to go back and we're going to talk about our early memories of the G.I. Joe animated series. And man, it's going to be fun. And we're going to lead that in right now with a song from Wordburglar. You're going to love this, man. I promise you. And I'm going to be putting the link up. So check that out and then come back for the time machine. His name is Wordburglar, and the new album is called Spaceverse, available now on Bandcamp.com. 14 tracks, featuring your favorite space places and star characters. The third track is one of my favorites. It's a tribute to Transformers, titled Cybertronosaur.
Straight out of Icon, I've been scribing on Cybertron since before the primes first turned their high beams on. Right along with the pride of Ironhide, I'll be kind, recording everything like rewind. I am the Allspark Alpha to Zeta Prime, Diaclone way ahead of my time, Optimus Primal, transforming with a monkey on my spinal. Stunticons, Junkions, Rekgar, turn you into a trash can with the wreckers, ready for my last stand. The OGG1 got you tripping on my whole body of work. Triptychon, inflict upon like Scorponok, fast track. They forgot I was a leader like Ratbat, flipping scripts inside Thundercracker. You'll never change me back, Action Master. Cybertronosaur, Cybertron's chronicler, transforming my thoughts into a monitor, so you can see now rolling your odometer. I'm no pawn, I'm more than meets the moniker. Cybertronosaur, Cybertron's chronicler, transforming my thoughts into a monitor, so you can see now rolling your odometer. I'm no pawn, I'm more than meets the moniker.
Cybertron, 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 Cybertron.
You know the vibe, I'm on a Cybertron. Side swipe or sideways if you ride bikes. Defy types on a night beat, I write sights. Streetwise on more beats than Prowl. Live through the wars of the beasts as an owl. More than meets the eye, the more you learn though. Like Grapple looks sorta like Orange Inferno. Come on, I know you know it's weird. Like how does Alpha Trion grow a beard in my world? Not only a bumblebee mumbling, I'm too busy running things like Thunderwing, keep bumbling while I brainstorm with Chrome Dome. Tell a friend to tell Teletran to phone home, then tell it like it is, keep applying facts. Remember who you are first, like Orion Pax. Till all are one, go ask G-Axis, don't get a big head, Fortress Maximus. Cybertronosaur, Cybertron's chronicler, transforming my thoughts into a monitor, so you can see now rolling your odometer. I'm no pawn, I'm more than meets the moniker. Cybertronosaur, Cybertron's chronicler, transforming my thoughts into a monitor, so you can see now rolling your odometer. I'm no pawn, I'm more than meets the moniker.
Cybertron, 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 Cybertron.
You know the vibe, I'm on a Cybertron. Pound for pound, it's going down with the squad. When I'm in town, I'm probably found with Hound and Mirage in a garage, Dodge, or get toast like Ejector. I see what you're up to. Perceptor, Age of Extinction, nah, back like Vector Sigma. Saw love like RC and Springer. Sunstreaker, rolling out to hunt seekers. Jazz tracks and blaster from speakers. Eject, rumble, get played. Wind charger, wind shear, wind blade. Before Megatron was mine and Energon, I was with Primus, piling engines on. Save the hijinks for Skylinks. Time to rock, slag sludge with a snarl. Dinobots, swoop, there it is. Me Grimlock, ceiling sound wave, mint in box. Rhinox, target master, haywire, frequent, astro train flyer, triple changer, ricochet, stop sulking, pretenders get cracked open, skull grin, skull cruncher, bludgeon, you bet it hurts, get to work like Ratchet, red alert, my words save lives, let them speak, for every sentient being, even Kremzy.
Cybertron, 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 Cybertron.
You know the vibe I'm on is Cybertron.
Cybertron, 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 Cybertron.
You know the vibe I'm on is Cybertron.
Well, welcome to the TRN Time Machine. We are here going back to the early 80s, and we're going to talk about the G.I. Joe animated series. And this week, the TRN Time Machine is sponsored by Retro Days. Head on over to retro-daze, DAZE.org. They've got a great new, I don't know if you've seen this, Mick, they've got a great new, like, Pokemon-style card battling game. It's called Extreme All-Star Nostalgia Battle. And I told you before, maybe a couple episodes ago, that I just couldn't get into playing Pokemon with my son. But now you put in characters like Daniel LaRusso and Jerry Seinfeld, and yeah, you're gonna capture my attention that way. But I clicked over there, played for a little while. It's fun, man. It's great. Just it's an easy setup, and to do the battling, and you're collecting cards. You're like collecting wax packs almost. And you're opening them up, you get your cards, and then you go and battle within different areas of this map. It's fun, man. You guys need to check that out over there. You can get right to it from the Retro Days homepage.
I've not got to play it yet, but all the games Tony has had like that over at Retro Days have been fun. And he actually turned his Retro Manic game into an actual board game a couple years ago that I've got a copy of.
Oh, nice.
And the kids and I, they like that game. They really like it. And yeah, that people need to go over to Retro Days and see about procuring their own home version of Retro Manic board game to play.
Cool. Yeah, and then make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel like we mentioned. The latest RD's Detention is all about the Domino's Noid. It was really great. Just watched it a couple days ago, I think, when it dropped. So, and we put a link up in the TRN Theater, which is basically a post on our site, on the Retro Network site, with that video, so you can find it right from our site as well and watch that. Very funny stuff, and those guys do a great job, Adam and Tony. So G.I. Joe, man, G.I. Joe, what was your first experience? Because the way I think it went was they made the toys, they made a comic book series, and then the animated series came, right?
Well, yeah, the cartoon was last. I'm not sure if it was the comic book or the toy first. I want to say it was the toy because Larry Hama ended up, who done all the file cards for the toys, wrote the comic book.
Yeah, it might have been released at the same time. Yeah, maybe that was it.
For me, though, my first experience was my brother had a couple G.I. Joe men, the original series with the straight arms and not the swivel arms. And people who know the toys will know what I'm talking about. And then he got the Sky Striker jet. And I was instantly hooked. And I think a lot of it was the taboo aspect because I was not allowed to touch the Sky Striker. I was barely able to touch the 2 or 3 figures he had. And I don't want to go too far off on toys because like you and I talked, I didn't want to talk toys today because I could go for hours and hours just on that and I want to save it. But that is what prompted me to know what G.I. Joe was. And it was through him when we missed the Revenge of Cobra miniseries, but when it started coming on every afternoon on our local Fox affiliate as the afternoon after school cartoon, man, I was just blown away with the characters, the animation, the stories, everything. And from that point on, it was all G.I. Joe cartoons, toys, the whole shebang for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't remember specifically which came first for me. It was likely the cartoon, because I've got vivid memories mainly of that Revenge of Cobra miniseries when that came out. I believe it was 84. I think that was the second miniseries. The first one was The Mass Device, and that was like maybe fall of 83. But I remember that because the part where they captured Duke and he's in that like arena of sport or whatever, and Cobra Commanders making them battle each other, and they've got those like headbands that like lit up, it was weird. That always stuck out in my mind, because you remember back in the day when your mom would like take your temperature with those little temperature strips and it would light up to like different colors. I was like, Mom, are you putting like a mind control device on me? I don't know. It's just kind of, I've always associated those specifically with Duke having that on his head at the arena, being trapped there. And, that was, I don't know. I made that connection back in the day. And I can't remember if I did watch the Mass Device miniseries, but the part where Snake Eyes gets stuck behind like that ice wall and they have to like leave him behind, that always was prominent to me. I was like, no, Snake Eye, you can't just leave him. He's stuck there. He's gonna die. I think it's him and Scarlet, right? They like almost like touch hands through the ice wall, and
well,
I don't know.
Which is
that
weird
scene stuck
because
with me.
The part that about the cartoon and was the way they paired everything off different from the comic book, which in the cartoon it was Duke and Scarlet. You kind of knew they had something going on the side. They were sneaking behind the tanks in the garage at night. But in the comic book, which I got the comic books last out of everything.
Me too.
And so what happened in the cartoon was my canon. And I'm reading the comic books. I'm like, what is Scarlet doing with Snake Eyes? Does Duke know?
Right. Yeah.
But that was the actual romance, which we learned, going back to speaking of the Mass Device for a second, we learned in our great post over at the retronetwork.com about old 80s cartoons, the Mass Device, being the fact that it was shown in 5 parts over 5 nights, made it the very first animated miniseries in television history.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I see. I was the same way. I didn't start reading comics till about like 5 years ago. I just never got into comic books as a kid. And then when I started collecting, and that's the most, from one series that I collect is from that original Marvel run of G.I. Joe. You start reading through some of that and you're like, what? No, that can't be right. And it is because you're watching the cartoon 5 days a week and you're stuck in that world, and Flint and Lady J have a thing. And
the cartoon and the comic book both featured different sets of characters. Like the cartoon through most of its run featured the same core set of characters, and you'd have episodes that had different, I'm going to say, I don't say guest stars, but they would focus on somebody they didn't normally focus on. Whereas the comic book, it was mostly focused on Stalker, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, the whole Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow kinship, which you didn't really get in the cartoon. So it was a different world, even though it was written by the same person. Well, no, the cartoons weren't written by Hama, were they?
No.
Yeah.
Cartoons were Ron Friedman, I believe, was writing those. And it's funny, he was actually the one that wrote the Transformers movie, where Optimus dies. And I was listening to him on the Gilbert Gottfried podcast. They had him on a couple times. He's a great interview just for his whole career, but just talking about that and like the blowback that he got for killing off Optimus. And I think he's got a memoir out now that's called something to the effect of I Killed Optimus Prime or something. Yeah, his spin on it is, almost a 180 in some aspects as what Larry Hama wrote, who, I don't know, I call him the godfather of G.I. Joe, or at least G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. He's still writing issues to this day. I got a chance to meet him last year. Have you ever met Larry Hama?
No, have not.
Oh my gosh, he is such a personable guy as you'll ever meet. I got a couple fun pictures with him, and he's just sitting at his table. He takes commissions right there. You tell him what your favorite character is, and he'll draw it up for you, sign it, and you come pick it up later. That's all he does. He just kind of sits in his booth. He draws his commissions, and he'll interact with people as they come up. And awesome guy.
I'd like to get a chance to meet him.
Oh, it's great. And I got him to sign a couple of my favorite books in there. But getting back to the cartoon, are you sure exactly where you kind of came in? Was it was after like they released the first two miniseries?
Yeah, it had to have been, because I don't remember ever seeing any of the animated adventures until we were watching them on a daily basis. Now, they usually opened up each season, every time they'd run through the series, the first episodes would be those miniseries. So I saw them early, but I don't believe I saw them when they were a standalone miniseries.
Okay. Yeah, because they did run those in, I guess, what you would call reruns throughout the afternoons when they'll throw in those miniseries. And I think they did that for, I guess, what they call season 2, that started out with the Serpentor miniseries, which was great. I think that's my favorite. They always go epic with the miniseries, and you're going to different parts of the world, and there's different teams that go out, and you're going to Iceland, and you're going to the tropics, and you're going to the jungles.
They don't call it the tropics, and they don't call it the Arctic. They got cool names.
Right.
You're going to the point of no return.
The jungle of terror. Yeah. I mean,
you're going to see the lady of the third eye. You got some cool names for stuff that you don't have. The city of the dead.
Yeah. What I liked about the Serpentor series was they introduced a lot of the new characters. So you get those new characters with the old characters, and then you're going to these specific places, the pyramids and all the other places to get the Dracula's DNA, or all the stuff that they're putting in to make Serpentor.
We've got to get to the devil's bathtub and stop Cobra Commander.
The devil's bathtub.
Hey, that's a real place here in Virginia, my friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's some natural hot springs. But anyway, it fits the theme. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
They done a great job, instead of saying, well, we've got to go to Australia to...
Right.
We've got to go to the Sandstorm Desert, is what they would say.
The Cave of the Scorpions, whatever. Yeah. So what are, was there some favorite characters, some that you kind of gravitated towards more than others?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of the cartoon character and the toy version that made me such a big fan of the character Shipwreck, because that was an awesome toy. But his character portrayal and the voice acting, and he got used a lot in the cartoon. He was in, gosh, what would you say, 70% or better of all the episodes, and he had meaningful parts in most of those too. And matter of fact, he starred in several episodes. So Shipwreck was a big favorite, and I always liked, again, I think it was a combo of the toy and the character, but I was a big fan of Spirit. I thought he was like the baddest G.I. Joe, because he talked in that low, slow voice, and like, this dude means business right here. This dude, he walks soft and carries a big stick, and
he's got an eagle too, man.
Yes, he's got an eagle. The dude's got everything. The martial arts, he could go toe to toe with Storm Shadow, and they showed that a couple of times during the cartoons. I really like Spirit too. And then on the Cobra side, I've always been, it's probably from my fandom of pro wrestling, I always tend to lean more towards the villains, which in any type of fiction, if it's done well, the villain always should be the more interesting character. So Cobra Commander, Destro, Zartan, the Dreadnoks, Baroness, Serpentor, like I said, from that miniseries, Dr. Mindbender. I loved all those characters in the G.I. Joe cartoons.
Yeah. It's the voice acting too. There's such great voice acting in the series. And once you get that comboed with some great stories, then it's just hard to beat. It's hard to not like even the characters you would think were so far out there. Even the Cobra characters, we'll get to the movie in a minute, but Globulus, who is the Penguin, Burgess Meredith. Oh my gosh. of course, I don't know if I would have recognized that as a kid. I probably did, but going back and watching it now, that's part of the fun of it too, is watching it with adult eyes versus, what you remember as a kid, and honing in on some of those episodes. You're like, wow, this is intense for even for a kid. But
well, they done a great job in, you mentioned watching it as an adult. The stories were pretty tight within the episode, and it's a very watchable series now at our age.
Right. Very true. Shipwreck, he was just fun, man. He was just against the norm. He did his own thing. He's hitting on all the girls. He gets slapped a few times. He was just a fun character all the way around. And I gravitated towards a couple others. One was Dusty. I just liked his toy too, with the whole desert gear. And I don't know, he was kind of like that Lone Ranger too sometimes. And one of my favorite episodes of his was when he seemingly goes to Cobra and he's the traitor. Love that episode. But I like Dusty. And then for some reason, like my favorite character, if I'm going back now to collect the toys, or if they put out new toys, I'm looking for Lowlight. Lowlight is the sniper. Well, he was a night spotter, on the file card. They couldn't put sniper in there. But I just
skill shooting rats in junkyards at night. That's what it says on his file card.
There you go. I don't know what it was. I just liked his gear, and when you're a kid and you get those army men, just like the plain old green army men, I always loved the ones that could lay down, were like the snipers. Mm-hmm. So maybe that had something to do with it, that I liked Lowlight. He was the sniper. He had that rifle that came with the bipod, so you could try to lay him down and pick off the Cobra officers, And then, on the bad guys, I'll say, I liked Firefly. He was always fun. Just kind of menacing. He always came out of nowhere to, put a bomb on something, and then he was gone. So he was never in a fair fight, really, from the times that I remember him during the show. But the blue camo, I just love that. That was great. I dressed up like Firefly just a few years ago for Halloween.
Ooh, we need that picture on Patreon.
I'll put it up there. It's actually probably on my Instagram, buried for Rediscover the 80s. But yeah, my two boys were from Halo. They had the Halo costumes. I was like, I'm going to dress up this year. And I had some blue camo pants, and I ordered a blue camo shirt, and I found one of those little sleeves, whatever you call them, the head sleeves. And I was Firefly. I used a nice red Sharpie to make a Cobra symbol on my shoulder. So, yeah, man.
Well,
love Firefly.
We had, my cousin Tim and I remember one year for Christmas, my mother got each one of us one of the Family Home Entertainment VHS tapes with the cartoons on it.
Yes.
And I posted an ad on Retro Ramblings here. It's been over a year ago, from a comic book that you could get those suckers for just $29.99 each.
Just $29.99 each.
Yes, and this was from 1985.
A steal.
Well, in today's dollars, that's about $85.
Yeah.
For one 23-minute episode. So
you didn't get two episodes on there, huh?
No, they only had one episode on each one. But that was part of, kind of looking back on it from an adult's eyes, part of the appeal, because the box art for each tape was based on that individual episode. Mm-hmm. So you have them all, and it's this nice art collection. But I got the episode Satellite down, and Tim got the Funhouse. And we wore those things out before our Christmas break was over. And then we discovered and we'll have to do a pod on this one day, a time machine segment on our first video store memories. But the little tiny town of Glade had this video store rental, and they had 4 other tapes there. And we were just begging all the time. Every time somebody went to the video store, can you get G.I. Joe? Can you get G.I. Joe? And so somebody would get one of those, and we'd put ours up and watch that one back to back to back to back to back to back to back over the course of the day you had it. We'd probably watch it 15 times. I still have my VHS copy of Satellite Down. That's something
Nice.
I've held on to all these years. That just shows you how much I appreciate and enjoyed this cartoon, that of all the things I threw away or got lost or got rid of or broken, that one survived.
Nice.
Yeah, it's something about it still. I could turn on Tubi and watch G.I. Joe, and it's not quite the same. But if I had a VCR and pop that tape in and watch it, man, it'd be like I was 7, 8 years old again. And that cartoon, like I said, most of the episodes had some far-reaching stuff in them. Some of the machines or things, the technology was a little advanced for the time. But generally, on a whole, you can still sit down and watch G.I. Joe and not feel like your intelligence has been insulted. You'll still be entertained.
Yeah.
You can, and now as an adult, you really can sit, like you were saying, and appreciate the voice acting and what's going into that. They did, like you mentioned, that they done a fantastic job. All those voice actors did.
Well, just thinking about that, I mean, and I know Michael Bell especially did a couple different voices. Chris Latta that did Cobra Commander, he was one of the Dreadnoks, and they did multiple voices. So they usually had one good guy, one bad guy that they did, and you can hear it now. But as a kid, you're not paying attention to that stuff, so you don't really even care about that stuff. You care more about the characters and the story, and then going to reenact that with your toys.
Yeah.
So,
my only real criticism with the series, and I 100% understand why they did it, and as a parent, I'm glad they did it, but nobody ever got, I don't want to say killed, but you know what I mean. These guys are fighting their opposing armies, and nobody ever actually gets shot.
right.
And they're not using bullets, they're using lasers, which look cool as can be. But nobody ever actually gets shot, and I 100% know why they done it, and I 100% agree with it. But that's the only thing that still to this day kind of takes me out of it when I'm watching it, is just, there's no repercussions for all these evil deeds for Cobra.
Yeah. And every vehicle, every jet was like a parachute creator. Every time one gets hit, you see that parachute pop out. And I mean, I don't know. We can get into the movie now, but that was a big part of the swap there. They were going to kill off Duke in the movie. And since they had such backlash from Transformers, from killing off Optimus, they changed it. And I don't know if you remember the last time you watched the movie. I mean, it's been probably about a year for me since I watched it. But if you watch it, you see that moment when Duke kind of passes out or falls over, and you see I can't remember who it is that the tear, if it's Scarlet. And then you hear this kind of delayed, oh, he's in a coma or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally doesn't match what's going on screen. So you can definitely tell that was shoehorned in. But
I mean, he didn't need to die in that movie anyway. Going into a coma was fine. I understand they're wanting to go for shock value, but after hundreds of episodes where nobody ever gets shot or dies, all of a sudden, of course, now he did get impaled in the heart with a snake.
Right.
That's pretty hardcore. But I mean, I think it was fine that he was in a coma. It didn't bother me as a kid. As a kid, and watching it, and you didn't know the backstory that they had changed it, it all seemed natural.
Yeah, it didn't affect you at all. Right.
Yeah, it just seemed like a natural progression of the story.
I still have my VHS copy. I think it's the FHE copy of G.I. Joe the movie, and I have refused to convert it over to DVD or Blu-ray. Every time I watch it, I got to pop it in the VCR.
Which I'll say this, the story of the movie made a lot more sense with Duke being in a coma than it did with him dying. Because if Duke had died, the response from G.I. Joe should have been a major can of whip ass opened up and just obliterating Cobra from the map, and that didn't happen.
Right.
So, it made, like I said, it all seems natural looking back.
Yeah, well, it still served the purpose, of Falcon stepping up, not being his lazy ass self, and kind of pushing things forward. But yeah, I mean, it worked. It worked as a kid. It wasn't really a big deal. But now you can tell now.
Yeah, now since we're on the movie, I remember them advertising that like I said, the cartoon came on our local Fox affiliate every afternoon at 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And they started hyping the movie, and it was shown, in prime time on the same channel. I'm almost positive of that it was on Fox for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking forward to that. That was event television. And the movie, parts of it have got a bad rap through the years, but at the time and even now, man, that movie was just entertaining. I just really enjoyed it.
I did too, man. A lot of people poop on Cobra and how that whole world was created, and it was not necessary to have all that backstory for Cobra, but I don't mind it at all. I really don't.
I'll agree it wasn't necessary, but it still made for an entertaining movie.
It did. I was trying to remember when I first watched it, because I want to say that they split it up into like 5, like almost like a mini series, and showed it in the afternoons after it had been featured or released as a movie itself. And I think that's where I might have watched it first that way. Back
in the old days of, local affiliates and syndicated television, I'd say a lot of people had it either or both ways. It's probably added with the collection of that season or whatever. And maybe my local Fox affiliate decided to make it a one night event.
Mm-hmm.
Because we watched it, I remember, and it was before or after we moved? Now, that part I don't remember. But I can remember watching it all in one sitting, the whole movie, at home on television.
Cool. Well, before we get any further, did you want to run through, because we've got our own like top 5 episode list that we did on our old sites that we're going to re-release on the Retro Network. Did you want to buzz through those, or what do you want to do?
Well, let's save that for people to go check out.
Okay.
Which we'll get to this here in just a little bit on the show too. But Jason's list, we've got 2 separate lists of our 5 favorite episodes, and we each picked our favorite miniseries as part of that we wrote. This has been a couple years ago now, but since we were talking about this, I brought those up to Jason. Like, we need to move those to the Retro Network and just do a whole kind of week of G.I. Joe cartoons. So you can check Jason's list out on Wednesday, and you'll be able to find my list on Thursday this week.
I did hint at one of those episodes, so
yes, you did.
Which is the Dusty one. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. We just kind of break down the plot of the episode and why we chose it as one of our favorites. And it was fun because we were both worried we're going to have to come up with like a list of 12. And all right, you take this one and you take this one, because we would both pick the same one for our top 5. And we didn't pick any similar ones in either of our top 5 lists, which worked out great.
No, we didn't. But in our initial list, we both had a few. And I think we danced around the subject, and we both just picked other episodes that we knew the other one didn't have. We ended up with 10 totally separate episodes.
Okay.
And a few of our favorites got left by the wayside. So I remember one of those was, what's the title of the episode? Castle Destro or something. Anyway, where, Skeletons in the Closet. Was that the name of it?
I can't remember.
Lady J inherits a castle or something, and turns out it belonged to Destro's ancestors, and they're there performing some medieval something
ritual
or other in the basement, and Lady J's in a nightgown, and her and Destro have a romantic fling for a week. No, wait, that didn't happen, did it? But we both mentioned that, and I think some of those types of episodes were some of my favorites, where they were outside of the norm. And you already kind of tipped off one of your favorite episodes. One of mine was the Excalibur episode. And it's a good example of, typically Cobra's got some new weapon or some new plan.
Right.
G.I. Joe unveils it and they have to stop it. Well, every now and then they would get outside of that, like the Castle Destro or Skeletons in the Closet, and like Excalibur, where Storm Shadow finds the legendary sword Excalibur at the bottom of the lake. So those episodes were always really cool. And I'm glad they've done a lot of, I ain't gonna say they've done a lot, but they done a fair amount of those episodes.
Yeah, there were several. They get into those kind of mythical, you get those mythical properties with that, and then different dimensions, and just kind of weird stuff like that, more than just a straight up Cobra versus G.I. Joe battle because Cobra wants to, take over the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, those were fun. It just added a lot more, a different element to just a straight up good versus bad army battle,
Mm-hmm.
So that was good. Now, where did you go from the movie? Did you get into the Deke series from '89 and some of the other later ones like Renegades or Sigma 6 or any of those?
Well, Renegades and Sigma 6 were never on my radar until you and I talked about this podcast. So I can't speak to that. The other series, I guess I don't want to say I ended with the movie, because again, on my local syndicated, after the movie was incorporated to the other episodes, they just started over at the beginning, and I still watched G.I. Joe for a long time, so much so into the 90s when it was on USA Cartoon Express in the mornings. When I was going to high school, I would set a VCR tape and record it one after the other. I've got multiple VHS tapes of those recordings, and nobody that I knew of ever played that newer series until it was well into past its prime. I seen it in syndication somewhere and tried watching a few episodes. On its own, it's a fine cartoon. It's good. It's got some of the fun G.I. Joe characters from the later years of the toy line and the stories. It's just in my mind, when you compare it to the Real American series, it just isn't that good. But on its own, with its own characters, in a world where Real American Hero never existed, that would probably be a great cartoon. But since it lives in the world that we grew up in, it fails to live up to what I grew up with.
Yeah, and I can see that. I've actually never watched the whole series myself. I've just started watching thanks to Tubi recently, just to see what it was like. And yeah, you get some of the characters, Sergeant Slaughter, and you still get Cobra Commander and his whatever armor that he wears in that series, and the same voice actors on some of those. But it's mainly new characters that you're trying to, at least I'm trying to get a feel for. Whereas the original Real American Hero series, episode 90 or something, might have had a character that was featured in the first miniseries. So they're so interchangeable, and you just never know what character is going to be next when you're watching that whole series featured. Obviously they did add some characters once Serpentor came around, like Lowlight and Lifeline and some of those other later characters, but they were still interacting, and they still kept that core group of Flint and Duke and and even Destro and the Baroness and everybody on the Cobra side. So yeah, it's almost like watching a different show, even based on the characters we know looking different, like Cobra Commander. So I'm gonna sit through it and see. Maybe I'll put an article up on the Retro Network after I get done with it, just thoughts and notes on what I'm watching that for the first time, because I just never. It was in that transition period more or less for me. 89, 90. At 1990, I'm going into high school, so I'm transitioning out of that playtime mentality for a lot of these action figures and shows. And of course that never stopped me from watching Legends of the Hidden Temple and Double Dare and stuff on Nickelodeon when I was in high school. But
that's because those shows were live action. They weren't cartoons.
Right. Yeah. Live action.
You could convince yourself you were, doing better.
And some of the later shows, I do remember watching Renegades. Trying to remember what network that was on, because that was, I think that might be only like a 10 episode series, something like. It was a pretty short run, if memory serves me correctly, and it was more gritty and more real world stuff. Zartan and the Dreadnoks were on like a biker gang. It was just a different take on a lot of those characters. And then you finally get to Cobra Commander towards the end of the show. It's been a while since I watched it, but I enjoyed it for what it's worth. And I never watched any of the other series like Sigma 6, or I think there was one called Extreme, something like that. But yeah, it's always been the Real American Hero for me too, man. Always, that's the reference point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they really need
thermometer or barometer, thermometer, whatever people say. It's one of them.
They really need to take those stories, that style, that real American hero, and put into a movie if they're going to keep moving forward. I know they're doing Snake Eyes, but I wish they'd tap into that world more so like they did with Bumblebee, the most recent Bumblebee, and the original G1 characters. I thought that was just a miles towards what we want versus what we got with like Michael Bay. But we can save the live action movies for a later time. Like you said, we're trying to stick with the animation, but I've got some choice thoughts on the live action movies. You said you've never watched them, right? You've never.
Right. I've never watched them.
Just never wanted to ruin your childhood.
Exactly. I don't want to tarnish, which now maybe I should give them a shot, because you talk about collecting the old Marvel Comics series. I was the same way. And then back in 2000, Image released a new G.I. Joe series, and I was real skeptical. I'm like, I don't want to see what they're going to do, and yada, yada, yada. Well, I waited till it was about 6 issues in, and I started buying them. And they had done such a great job of picking right up where it was like our television reboots of today. Here it is, since the original series ended, it's been 12 years, whatever, and la-da-da-da-da. And they're picking up, they're a little older, they're a little fatter, they're a little out of shape, they're putting G.I. Joe back together. And it was a really good comic book series. So maybe I would feel the same way if I tried watching the movies, that, this ain't so bad. But I just haven't given them that shot yet.
No. I mean, you've really got to take the name G.I. Joe. Besides Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow looking, pretty much what you think they should look like, it really shouldn't be named G.I. Joe at all. And it just doesn't have that. My main qualm, and we'll end it with this, but my main qualm is just they gave them all these like power-up suits, and all of their uniforms were the same, and you don't have that distinction, you don't have that creativity and the just personality of the original characters in those movies at all. And everybody just kind of blends in with, this is G.I. Joe as one team, and that was just what was so great, man. I mean, back in the day, and a lot of these cartoons did that, where there might be some stereotypes, and they might have taken that stereotype way too far, even with Spirit, a little bit of the Native American stuff, and just all those the different races and how they portrayed them back in the day.
Like Roadblock always making rhymes.
Yeah. I mean, but it was still part of the character to distinguish him from whoever else, Dusty, who's the backwoods hick. Maybe that's why I liked him so much. But anyway, you know what I mean? They can't do that nowadays in the way that it was back then. And I understand that, but it still made the characters too generic for me to make it G.I. Joe. But anyway, so that's that. Anything else you want to add as far as the cartoon series?
No, I just can't wait until we find the time to talk about the toys, because they were a lot of cool toys that went along with G.I. Joe. Speaking
of Sky Striker, I got the Sky Striker for Christmas. Would have been probably like 83 or maybe 84. It was soon after it was out. And I still have my original Sky Striker. That's one thing that I have refused to let go to anyone. And I still keep my kids away from it. It's it's in my living room, sitting on top of my little display shelf.
Oh, man, you need to do something better with that. You need to get some fishing line where it's kind of invisible and hang it like at an angle in the corner, like it's banking and coming into the living room.
I've got to restore it. That's what I really need to do. I need to restore it. I need a fresh set of stickers, and I need a way to get the old ones off there and get it back to more of a white color versus yellow.
That's going to be the hard part. The stickers are no big deal. You can take those off. You can buy reprints of stickers now, but getting that plastic just about don't come unyellowed.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic, but it's still, part of me, part of my childhood, and I'll display it until the thing falls apart if I have to. Anyway, we'll definitely circle around to the toys at some point, because gosh, there's just so many I remember playing with as a kid and wanting, and friends wanting to go over to friends' houses just so we could play with the Raven, you know. Oh my gosh, that thing was glorious. But anyway, we'll get into all that later. But yeah, this was, man, I just love going in the time machine back in these times and just thinking about being a kid watching G.I. Joe. And we've got so many others to get to on this show.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, this podcast could roll on for the next 20 years and we probably wouldn't touch every time machine topic we would want to.
True. Very true. All right. Well, we appreciate you listening. Give us your thoughts on G.I. Joe on the website. You can leave it right there to the podcast notes. Hit us up on the social media. Love to hear some of your favorites from the cartoon series. Where did you come in? Did you come in with the miniseries or maybe later when it was in syndication? Some of your favorite episodes, characters. Would love to hear that this week as we are continuing almost like a G.I. Joe theme throughout the week. So come on back. We're going to talk to you about what's coming up on the Retro Network.
A kid hut! All right, Maddie. Then on second thought, maybe not. I'm Sergeant Slaughter, and I got some real hairy action heading your way. Action that would send most guys screaming for their mama. But then the Joes ain't most guys, are they? Yo! Over the next 5 days, you're gonna see the greatest G.I. Joe adventure of all time. With the greatest roll call of Joes ever. Hawk! Shoot!
Every through, we've got to warn him.
And Roadblock. And yeah, even your old friend the Sarge. My job is to whip you into shape. And I'm talking whip, plus some new Joes.
Okay, guys, prove us rawhides aren't raw.
And a brand new enemy.
Organisms of Cobra, detach and defend to the death.
So grab your helmets and buckle on your bandoliers, because here comes the first chapter of G.I. Joe the movie. Yo, Joe!
The first time I discovered Wordburglar was actually over 5 years ago when he released his album Welcome to Cobra Island. This G.I. Joe tribute album immediately connected with me, featuring songs like A Letter from Snake Eyes, I Don't Want to Go to Cobra Law, and That Guy with the Disguises. My favorite track from the album slithers deep inside Cobra. It's titled Rap Viper.
Strike like a cobra, strike like a cobra, strike like a cobra, strike like a cobra. Rap viper, superbly trained to drop dimes on your mind as I'm scanning your brain. Cobra for life. My parents met at the Terradrome, Rocker Beach Boardwalk. That there's my home. Dad worked at Arpco. Mom was a televiper with flying rattlers when you could still smell my diapers. Lyrical sniper delivered without obstacle by Dr. Venom at Cobra Island Hospital. Diabolical, my style's deadly like a lobulus. Speakers on my back, me a rapper, synonymous. Major blood got me into writing poetry, riding hydrofoils when the eels used to flow with me. And now they know it's me. Every single place I go, rallying the troops, getting play on Cobra Radio. Sonic Fighter, my primary specialty is that I rhyme very freshly. Rap viper, never spit blanks. Play me from the fangs to the bugs to the hiss tanks. Springfield to the Cobra Citadel. Across the globe and you know I give them hell. Rap viper, never spit blanks. Play me from the fangs to the bugs to the hiss tanks. Cold slither in the Cobra Citadel. Around the globe and you know I give them hell. Strike like a cobra. Out on the island, bombing them shoes all day.
Hugs from the honeys, pound from the roughnecks.
Strike like a cobra.
Out on the island, bombing them shoes all day.
Let me take it back for a sec, yo. As a Cobra youth with my best friend Billy, used to bug Crystal Ball. Always thought he was silly back when Big Boa taught me how to box. In between swimming laps with Croc Masters Crocs, I was stealing pop from the Dreadnoughts, getting dirtier than Shadow Tracker's dreadlocks. And when it gets hot, ammo's bursting, throwing my words and chill like snow serpents. Soap serving like headman in a drugstore. Once got busy in the back of a buzzbore, and much more, but that's for another day. Don't need Tomax to know what your brothers say. Cobra Records for your fams on the roster. So bump my jams from your man Bacopters with my modified standard issue RTO, letting every snake know where to party, yo. Rap viper, never spit blanks. Play me from the fangs to the bugs to the hiss tanks. Springfield to the Cobra Citadel.
All right, we're back to tell you about what's going on with the Retro Network this week. And before we get into what articles and podcasts are coming up, we do have a new staff member, Tim from Old School 80s. I've known Tim for quite a bit. We have been collaborating on Rediscover the 80s. He's just a treasure trove of 80s knowledge, music, and he's got this huge backlog of interviews that he conducted throughout the last, decade with several people, famous people within, movies and music. We've got one coming up this coming week on the creator of Family Ties that he did way back in 2010. But all these interviews have been great. They're timeless, and the information you get, some behind the scenes kind of stuff with the making of these movies and TV shows and albums. He's just a treasure trove of knowledge. And if you follow him at Old School 80s on Twitter, every day he's giving you the birthdays, he's giving you anniversaries, and man, I've been following him forever. So pumped to have him on the Retro Network now and contributing some of his music articles and everything that he's had from the past on his old blog, and then new stuff as well. So welcome, Tim. Glad to have you.
And we welcome Tim in the right way. We put him first in line this week on the Retro Network. By the time you're hearing this, his first piece will have dropped over at the Retro Network. Looking back at some old movies from the 80s, he has a really fun 25-point list that he's going through, a 25-item list. It was really fun. Also on the network this week, after we realized what anniversaries were, it's kind of turned into a de facto G.I. Joe cartoon week. So this week you've got some 35th anniversary reviews of the Revenge of Cobra miniseries. You've got mine and Jason's each individual list of our favorite episodes, and we're kind of wrapping all that up, putting a nice bow on it with a look at the 30th anniversary of G.I. Joe Operation Dragonfire miniseries that introduced the Dick series. So that's all coming this week, as well as this pod in particular talking about G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got the Sequel Quest gang coming back on Friday for a John Carter sequel. I have not seen John Carter, so that will be a fun listen for me. It'll be kind of new information. I don't know if you watched that one or not yet, Mick.
When did it come out?
It was just within the last maybe, 4 years?
Oh, I ain't seen it then.
Yeah, that's true. Who am I asking, man? Wow. And then we've got just a reminder, next Tuesday for our regular show, we're going to drop our Streaming Scheme podcast on the fall streaming schedule. You get to hear about all of the, paid streaming apps, some free apps, what shows are coming. That's all going to be coming up next Tuesday for you to listen to. And we've got some feedback this week. I wanted just to quickly go through over on the website, over on our previous episode on our school stories. We had a couple of comments, one from Tony, which was kind of lengthy, but I wanted to get through this because he said something that just stuck out to me. I'll just get to that first. He said, hearing me talk about my pranks reminded him of the time somebody poured urine in the heat registers in one of his classrooms. So in the middle of winter, they basically had to put up with the smell or freeze to death.
Oh, that is so classic.
You remember those registers did you have those in your school?
Yes, we did. Matter of fact, our school caught on fire because somebody left a coat laying on one too long. They used to warn you about it, and you didn't believe them. But I'm here to tell you, it could catch on fire.
Absolutely. Well, see, we didn't have the one that smelled like pee. We had the one that smelled like crayons because somebody dumped some crayons in there, so we called it the crayon burner. And when you cranked that thing up, you just smelled that like melted crayon smell. It was awful. But hey, you needed heat, so.
The problem with that prank is, though, you would want to do that in a room you never had a class in.
Absolutely, right, yeah.
If you were stupid enough to pull that prank in your own classroom, heaven help
you. He also said he had a harvest festival, too, kind of like you did, Mick, with the haunted house and cakewalks and drawings, costumes, games, music, food. Not in high school, though. That was just lame, he said.
Yeah, well, we did
the harvest festival in high school.
Yeah, we didn't have it in high school. It was just
elementary school. Yeah,
best part of the year.
So thanks, thanks Tony for that feedback. And we also got another comment from John Provisario. Excuse me if I screwed up your name, but John said, thanks. He said he enjoys listening to all the shows in the feed. He listens to the Read It Together 80s podcast as well. Looks forward to listening to the shows each week. That being said, he said, I wanted to just come over here and mention that I could tell that Jason did not want to reveal that he's never been to New York City from the last episode. For some reason, I found that moment really funny and actually laughed out loud when I heard his voice utter that sentence. Nice job and keep up the great work. And yes, I was a little embarrassed, I guess, that I never been to New York City. It's on my bucket list. I want to go see the Ghostbusters Firehouse, and that mainly. But I don't know. I'm still a little intimidated by New York City, I guess. We even got like the New York TV stations growing up, like WPIX, and we got the one out of New Jersey, WWOR. I remember watching those. Like those were on our extended cable. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little intimidated by New York City, I guess.
It's just a big place. That's all it is.
I did live in Atlanta for 6 years, so that should count for something. I know it's not New York City, but it's still crazy.
It is.
Anyway, thank you guys for chiming in on our last episode there, and we love to hear feedback like that and comments. Wow, pee in the heater. Yikes. Well,
the only thing makes that better would be if they ate asparagus before they done it. That'd be the only thing that make it better.
Anyway, connect with us on social media. You know where to find us, TRN Social, RD80s, and Yesterdayville. And we appreciate everybody listening. Have a great week, Mick.
You too, man. We'll do it again. Gosh, it'll be 2 weeks now.
2 weeks. Wow. 2 weeks. But we'll be back.
Yes, we will.
Thanks for listening to the Retro Network Podcast channel. Make sure you listen to all of the great podcasts we have to offer right here in this feed. If you enjoy our channel, please give us a 5-star rating in your favorite podcast app. Connect with us on social media by following TRN Social and visit the retronetwork.com website for your daily retro fix. Come back next week for another episode of the Retro Network Podcast.